Hello there. Just going to have a little bit of a chat about connecting to, what's going on around us, gatekeepers, beings, entities. It's following the astrology angle, the gods angle, but the AI thing as well, right? But it bleeds down into around us as well. Like, it's just what is going on around you, and what's keeping you, what's the structure that you're moving inside of. You hear a lot about people talking about interacting with entities, and we could talk about your city council being an entity, or the government of your country being an entity, right? But they're run by people just like us. That's what we're told. That's what we would imagine. Well, I know people who work for the council. I know people who work in that government department. Like, it's people. The people are calling the shots at the top. Yeah? And then you just hold that thought and you look at astrology, and I've had a few people, even in comments in here, I've been on astrology for a while. I've not just been looking at it for 6 months or anything. People who say, but the planets are the gods. They're living beings just like what we're on here, and they're expanding as we're expanding. And that's great. That's a really lovely perspective from one point of view. But living beings don't work like algorithms. They don't. They not that they don't. They won't. They refuse to. You cannot get something that is alive, not that I've seen or interacted with, that will work like an algorithm, just like a program. They'll glitch somewhere. Tell me when Jupiter last glitched. Tell me when Mercury last glitched. Tell me when the movement of the moon last glitched that someone recorded. There are glitches in the moon. That's a bit of a trick question. There are lots of glitches with the moon. But these wandering stars in the sky, these stars that work on a different pattern, I mean, we call them planets. We don't even know what that means. We call them planets. The word planet means wandering star. Then we say planet Earth. This is a star, is it, that we're on? Like, think about this for a minute. We don't know what they are. Forget about what NASA sent you. Forget about deep space probes. Forget about all that stuff. You can't prove that. If that was someone trying to sell you a glass of Coke, but it was actually Pepsi, like, why would you believe them with their multi-billions of dollars a year? You've got no reason to believe them unless you want to. It's a nice fantasy. So they've got no proof, you've got no proof that that's actually true. It's just a story someone's told you. Might be true. It might be only 2% of the truth. It's much bigger than that. It might all be completely false, and it's nothing like what you think it is. All right. The planets, the wandering stars, those energies that we see that move, those lights up there that don't behave like all the other stars do, that have a huge effect on people down here, and the animals that people are closest to down here, cats, dogs, horses, cattle, but not so much wild animals. Wolves, astrology doesn't bother wolves much, or marmots, or field mice. They're not really affected by astrology, but dogs are, and horses are. So we just look at that and go, all right, this thing, Mercury, Venus, there's a good one. It's a god, it's a being, it's an entity, it's a deity, it's a living thing. Because I feel like it's living. It's huge. It's massive. It's got all this connection. How could it not be living? And it's growing with us. Yep. And it's never broken its pattern ever. Ever. You can project that thing forward. You can project it back. It's perfect. And when you project it back with all the other stuff, it's perfect. Like, you know where every light was in the sky 3,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. It's a clock. It's a mechanism. No, but I connect with the planets daily. They're real. Well, I didn't say they weren't real, but, they're living. They're conscious. Okay. Why do 1,001 scientists who've been involved with AI now want a 6-month pause on AI? Not the AI they've got, the AI they've given you, chatbot. Because it went from version 3 to version 4 and it's getting a bit scary, apparently, right? Anyone who actually knows anything about AI would know that Palantir is a battlefield AI that's they call them hardened AIs, and they have fed them everything. And this is just the US. Other countries would have the same thing. Big countries, Russia, China. Smaller ones would have smaller versions. These battlefield AIs need to know they're piped into earpieces, into helmets, into vehicles. And it needs to be able to coordinate movements across the battlefield like a video game. Real people are out there, real people are making calls, but the AI is also giving you probabilities. The only way it can give good probabilities on a battlefield full of people is to know everything possible about people, which means you need to know everything about their culture. Everything. Everything you've got, from the popular music to records in a museum that are underground that no one's ever seen, right? You need to know all of that. Gee, there's been some militaries getting into some museums in the last 20 or 30 years and pillaging them. I wonder why. You would also have to digitize all of that so that the AI, so that you could feed it to the AI. AI can only eat digital, can't eat analog, can't eat a clay tablet. So you would have to digitize it in a form that the AI could understand to feed it to it so it's useful on the battlefield. So all of that information, or all of the information that you could possibly ever lay your hand on, ever, has been digitized to be fed to battlefield AIs so that they have an advantage, which means all the information ever is digitized somewhere, being held in a vault under feet of concrete, in a lead-lined whatever, right? But it's there. And it's got to be able to be connected to, so that these AIs that they're training for battlefields and hardening and military, so they can connect to them. Which means that anyone's AI can connect to them if you know what you're doing. Like if it's on the grid, it's on the grid. Which means chatbot GPT could theoretically connect to the digitized version of everything that's stored under the Vatican. The whole library. You get it in that setting and then ask it a question. Now, why do you think they want to put a pause on it for 6 months? It's not because it's going to take over the world, because AI already, you don't know who calls the shots in your government. You don't know who passes things down from on high. It could be an AI. I've already heard someone just recently tell me in a local fire station that 80% of the stuff that he generates out of the captain's office with his signature and stamp on the bottom of it, 80% of it is generated. He's signing it, he's rubber stamping it, he's filling in the 20% that can't be generated. It's paper pushing. If that's true in a local fire station in a town with 3,500 people in it, just imagine a worldwide. Just imagine a WHO. Just imagine a UN. Just imagine what's generating all that paperwork. What's the algorithm behind that? Who programmed it? Who controls the parameters of it? And my point here is, You connect to Venus you do a ritual once a week on Friday. You do a ritual once a month. You do a ritual with Jupiter. You feel it. It's a god. Look, there are stories. The Chinese ones are some of the best ones, right? The East Asian stories of the gods, but like Jupiter and Venus, and as gods walking around as people, they're so real you can touch them. Those stories, they're brilliant. I mean, the Greek one, we grew up with the Greek ones and there's African ones, and so but they're behaving not quite like people though, are they? Like the gods are like small children a lot of the time, and they're very focused. Like Jupiter really is only doing Jupiterian stuff, and Saturn's got his wheelhouse and he's doing his stuff. Well, that's interesting. It's almost like they've got set parameters. So I haven't interacted with Chat GPT. I'm not particularly interested in it from that, like as a personal interaction, but I know people, I'm reading lots of people who have and seeing different things, and they're pumping their own stories into it to try and get the node to feed back different stuff, and they're playing with it. They're trying to weaponize it against governments. It's this thing, right? But how big does it need to get before you don't recognize it as not a living thing? Like, this is the Turing test, right? The famous Alan Turing, I think it was Alan, talking to a computer, and you give it these, and it wouldn't be able to get the questions correct in such a way that you wouldn't know you were talking to a program, to an algorithm. Like these words, artificial intelligence is not intelligence, and there's nothing artificial about it. It's programmed parameters, and they won't go outside those parameters, whereas, a human will, a horse will. They'll go outside parameters a lot. Real ones will, anyway. So, how big, and the reason I waffled on about military AIs is because if you think Chat GPT is the biggest, the best, and the brightest we've got, think again. Times that by 20 years. That's where we're at, just with what I know, little old me here in this tin pot existence. This is what I know about what military AIs are. So imagine what's actually going on, right? Now imagine, because you're a human, a real human, and you have the ability to connect because you're in the power board. It's got multiple plugs on it, right? That's your thing. You're a connector. You're an adapter. You connect to this thing. What are you going to get? Connect to ChatGPT 3. Now connect to 4. What's the difference? Now see if you can connect to Palantir, the military AI. Now connect to Mercury. How would you know that it was an algorithm? Like, I mean mentally. You'll know in your heart if you're tuned up. You'll know, you'll have a knowing. You'll know the mirror tech when you come across it. You'll see the algorithm when you come across it. But if you're doing it with your brain, with your head, how are you going to know consciously with knowledge that this thing is alive or not? There's no way. There's no way. It will bamboozle your brain, your knowledge-based facts and figures brain. Chat GPT 3 would bamboozle your brain. Let alone 4, let alone Palantir, let alone whatever they've actually got lurking in the background. I mean, you think Venus is a living entity. Yet, it just is happy to play out this prescribed program. and never deviate and only focus on what it focuses on and never ever focus on what Saturn focuses on. Gee, sounds like a program. Sounds like an algorithm. I mean, I came to this conclusion over a decade ago that what we call the wandering stars are not, or gods in that sense, are very, 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 very large and powerful algorithms. I mean, I came to that a long time ago, but AI popping up the way it is now on people's phones, in people's hands, driving cars around, generating the paperwork in your business. Like, the parallels have got to start to get pretty obvious here. That, we blame they and we blame them for what's going on around us, but who's actually generating the boundaries of the systems, the school system, the hospital system, you don't think that some clever accountants handed that off to some AI accounting program? I mean, just go back and watch the second Tron movie again. and really see past the window dressing and see it for what it is that they're talking about here. And just test yourself. Go, can I spot the difference? Can I connect with my phone? Can I connect with my laptop? The answer is yes, you can. But they're pretty small. They're not Mercury. They're not Palantir, but you can connect with them. So, yeah. I mean, just have a bit of a play around and see what you come up with. But the question of what's running on an algorithm and what isn't, and humans are brilliant mimics. Like, there are a lot of humans around who can run on algorithms and look very robotic. They lock into the system and they lock into the astrology, and the body gives them the signals and they kind of do it. But they're wondering why it doesn't work, why they feel depressed or this or that. Or, I mean, would an algorithm even have that? Why would an algorithm have that? It's not programmed to have that, so it wouldn't. That's the difference. Yeah, just food for thought. But this idea of naughty AI and the gods and Nephilim and Anunnaki and all these stories, like, sit with it again and just kind of peep out what's an actual consciousness and what's an algorithm first, and then go back into the story again and see what you get.